Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Sai, founder of Impact Icon. I have been a fundraiser for over 10 years and I've raised over $10 million, and now I'm creating content to help you become the iconic, fabulous fundraiser that I know that you can be. This channel is all about nonprofit fundraising and all of the things that you need to get the most out of your fundraising career without the burnout. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through how to research so you know who to ask, how to make that ask, what language to use, how to follow up like a pro, and I'll even give you some little examples from my own experience. So grab your coffee, grab your notebook, and let's get into it. We are talking about one of the biggest challenges of being a fundraiser, which is how to create the confidence, how to garner the confidence you need to make an ask, doing the big thing, doing your big one, making the ask, asking for money. We're gonna get into it today. So let's be honest, asking for money can be awkward, it can be weird, it can be nerve-wracking, right? We don't know what to expect, we don't know what to say necessarily, but trust me when I say that fundraising is not begging for money. It's nothing that's bad. It's nothing that's wrong. In fact, it's really a great opportunity to invite community in, to support community. All right, so before we even talk strategy, let's get into mindset, because mindset is everything. If you go into a donor conversation with the right mindset, it can really determine how that conversation is going to end and whether or not you get a gift that's going to make real impact through your nonprofit. So a lot of people first and foremost think that fundraising or making an ask is basically something that is a pressuring situation, kind of like a high pressure sales situation, right? But it really couldn't be more different than that. It couldn't be further from the truth, because when you're inviting people to give to an organization, you're really connecting them to impact. So many people don't have the opportunity to have impact in their community. And so being a nonprofit professional of a nonprofit organization where you're fundraising, you can actually invite community members in to have that impact alongside you and all the program specialists and programmatic individuals in your organization that are actually doing the good work. You get the opportunity to share information to show them the impact that they're making. So remember, first and foremost, that you are not bothering anyone, bugging anybody, forcing anyone to do anything that they don't want to do. It's all about consent, and it's really about inviting people to join in and connect to that impact. The moment you stop viewing fundraising as asking for money and you make that mindset shift, to building partnerships in community and working alongside folks with whatever capacity they have to have more impact through the organization, that's when things really start to change and the donors can feel the difference. So make sure that you're bringing a really good energy to the space. Make sure that you're bringing that energy that says, you know, we want to partner with you. We're excited to understand what gifts you have to offer. And we're so grateful for anything that you're willing to bring and offer to community. Okay, now let's get tactical. Now, before you even go to make an ask, you want to make sure that you know a little bit about your donor. So we call that donor research. So how are you going to understand who this person is that you're talking to, what they have to offer, and possibly what they would be interested in contributing to? The more you know about the donor, then the more the conversation really just comes out by itself. It really kind of writes itself, if you will. The script will write itself because you'll have so much information about what this donor really wants to know about and how that overlaps with what the organization is doing and where they can see themselves fitting into it. And confidence is going to come from preparation. So before you even have an invitation sent out in any way to your donor to ask them to meet you up, what you want to do is you want to do a little research and figure out who should you be inviting to this conversation, right? And you're going to figure that out by going to your CRM, which is just a customer relations management tool, or it could be a database, or maybe in your organization, you know, you have a spreadsheet or something else where we keep all the donor information. Wherever you have your donor information, you're going to go there and you're going to look for gift information as well. So you want to see, when was the last time, every donor gave a gift? What size was the gift? Have they been giving regularly, like let's say once a year for the last 5 years, but they didn't give last year? Those are called lapsed donors. You just want to see who there is in the database who has already shown some interest in giving to this organization, so that you have a good, strong starting point. Some other things you can look for if you have data in your CRM or database that speaks to this is whether or not this person has ever volunteered for the organization, if they've ever served on the board or staff. If they have given, what campaigns have they given to? So you can kind of get an understanding of what interests them in terms of programmatic offerings. You just want to get a feel for what it is that was really spurring them. Do they like events, or do they really like, digital asks, or are they giving to, big giving days that come around once a year? Is there something special like the gala that they always like to give at? So pay attention to where those dollars are coming in from as well. Now, why does this matter? Why do we have to know so much about the history of, a donor? If they like the organization and they've given before, why can't we just ask them to give to this new thing that we're doing, right? Well, the more a donor feels seen and understood and really catered to in a way that is about, what they personally are interested in, the more likely they are, to get involved and to feel special, basically. So the more personalized you can make it, the better. One thing I always like to stress is that fundraising is all about relationships. You don't want it to be a generic, massive ask to everybody, and I always say everybody and their mama, right? Like, you want to make sure that it's personalized because that's how you build relationship, right? Understanding who you're talking to, what they would or wouldn't be interested in, what history they've had with the organization. That's how you build a relationship. You build trust by showing them that, you remember them, you care about them, you're grateful for their involvement. So that history is so important. It's such a big trust and relationship builder, and fundraising is all about relationships. All right, now let's get into the actual ask. This is where people tend to get very nervous, but it's gonna be okay. I promise you, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have a script. You don't have to, say a magic word. You just have to be authentic, and you have to be honest about, what y'all are trying to do, what you'll be able to do, and what you'll be able to show that the gift that the donor is considering giving is actually going to do in terms of making impact in the community. So some really quick tips to remember while you're going through this is just make it conversational. It doesn't have to be anything that is too rigid. It's actually better if it's not, right? You don't want it to sound too scripted or come across too rehearsed even. Instead of saying something like, would you give a gift to our youth program? It would be better to say something like, hey, I know that you have given to some of our youth initiatives in the past, and we have this new initiative that we are launching in the spring, and your gift would go ahead and offer, 3 of the students a spot in the spring break camp or whatever it might be, right? And you can let them know any impact that you can think of that would really help them understand what that means. So you could say something like, in this program, in this spring break program, this camp is going to provide kids in low-income schools the opportunity to continue to learn through spring break when most of them won't have anywhere to go, and the families won't have daycare. This will offer free daycare, free meals, plus the kids will continue to learn through their spring break, something like that. And you can say something to the effect of, I know that you care about kids, and you've given in the past to our youth programs again, so I think that this would be something that you'd really be interested in getting involved with. And the reason this works is that people give for outcomes, right? They give based on the outcomes. They want to know, what is their gift going to do in the world? How is it going to make a difference, right? People want to be a part of that. They want to be a part of making a difference. So let them know how it's really going to make a difference in someone's life. Now, one of my favorite lessons that I've had to learn, as a new fundraiser, was the power of silence. Now, if you're like me, you like to chat and you like to keep the conversation going. Silence can be a little awkward and it can be a little strange to let that silence ring out, but I can't tell you how powerful it is. So after you get out all of the information about how their history with the organization, after you tell them what impact they could have with a gift, and if you get some feedback that, this is something that they seem to be interested in, right? That could be body language, that could be, just interest, asking questions, wanting to know more. Then make the ask and make it really, really clear. Say something like, okay, Rebecca, it sounds like this is a program that you would be really interested in getting involved with and that you would really appreciate the impact that you could make through a gift. Would you consider a gift of $1,500 to support 3 of our campers this year? And then be quiet. Try to stay silent as best you can because that is Rebecca's opportunity to actually give you an answer. And if you don't give her that space to say yes, then you might actually talk yourself out of a gift. So this is really the key moment. This is the time where you lead up with all that conversation. You lead up with answering the questions that your donor is asking you, and then you just let them make a decision. And whether it's yes or no, make sure to listen, make sure to take notes, and make sure that you understand either if it's yes, why they care about this and how they want to make the gift. And if it's a no, why is it a no? Are they saying no, not right now? Are they saying no, that's too much, but I'd give a smaller gift? Are they saying no, I can't give, or I don't want to give, financially, but I would like to give, some volunteer time, right? Whatever it might be, make sure to listen and take notes because sometimes it could literally be a not right now. It could also just be that they need to check in with somebody or check their accounts before they make a big decision like that. So make sure you listen and take your notes. All right, well, congratulations. Now you've made an ask. Let's move on to what happens after the ask, because what happens after the ask is sometimes even more important than anything else, right? So if you got a yes, congrats. Make sure to follow up and make sure to get that gift, because sometimes people say yes and then you never really hear from them again, right? So there's a couple of ways that you can make sure to ensure that gift. You can take a pledge form with you, have people actually sign a pledge form for the amount that they are pledging, right? If you have a way to actually take a donation, like, receive a check at that moment, sure, you can do that as well. But you can give them the information, of how to mail in a check or how to go to the website to make a donation, whatever way that y'all in your organization receive gifts. Make sure that you're following up with that. And then make sure that you're following up, especially if, the donor said no, you want to make sure to follow up on whatever the reason was that they're saying no, right? If they said they need a little more time to think about it, make sure to put it on your calendar and follow up with them when you say that you're going to. So at the end of your ask, if they say, I want to think about this for a few days, you want to make sure to get consent. You want to say, okay, of course, that's fine. What if I reach back out to you next Tuesday or Wednesday? Would that work out well for you? And if they say yes, then make sure to put it on your calendar. Make sure you make that call when they said that it would be a good time, because that follow-up is really crucial, right? You want to make sure that you're doing what you say you're going to do and that the donor knows that they were heard and that this is a relationship, right? This is not just a one-time ask and it's a yes or no, it's an ongoing relationship. So make sure to follow up. Now, let's say that you got a yes. Let's go back to that scenario. If you got a yes, then that's wonderful. That means you have a donor who, whether they're a return donor or not, this is your relationship now, right? So you want to make sure to cultivate that relationship, to foster a long-term relationship. So the first thing you want to do, of course, is thank them in the moment. But as a follow-up, you want to go ahead and send them a little thank you note. I suggest doing a little handwritten note. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. In fact, it's going to be short because thank you notes are very small. But you just want to say, hey, Rebecca, it was so wonderful catching up with you over coffee. coffee the other day. Thank you so much for making that gift of this much for, the youth camp. We're so grateful that we're going to have 3 more campers who are going to benefit from this wonderful program, and that's all thanks to you. Gratefully, Cy. And that's all that you really have to say. Just send it in the mail, and having something, physical, tactile that they receive is always something that's a little bit special. So make sure that you're sending out something. Now, you think that that might be the only follow-up, but there's so much more. And the reason is, again, because you want to cultivate this long-term relationship with donors, right? So instead of just, asking and saying thank you, you want to make it an opportunity, rather, to really foster, cultivate a long-term relationship. And how do you do that? With touches. You want to make sure that you are setting up some kind of a system where you're giving an occasional touch to your donor. And what that means is just some kind of communication, right? They need to hear from you. The golden rule is something like 7 touches leads to a gift. One of the biggest mistakes that new fundraisers can make is they only go to donors when they're in need. But really, fundraising, is it's a year-round situation. And the reason being is because you have to keep making all of these touches. So what can a touch be? A touch can be as simple as, again, a thank you card, right? But it could also be, sending them a little bit of a newsletter that your organization put together to show some recent impact, maybe the photos from the youth camp, and saying thank you again for those who contributed. Maybe there's a celebration, happening later this year that y'all do every year to celebrate your wins, and it's an invite to that event. It can be so many things. It can even be, an article that you read about how, summer camps really enrich, the development of children or what have you, right? It can be anything that gets you an excuse basically to talk to the donor, right? So make sure you're taking advantage of every opportunity to have another touch. And make sure that you're documenting it. You want to make sure to put it in your CRM or your spreadsheet or whatever you're working off of. I recommend the CRM, of course, but you want to make sure to document it so that you can see how many times you're having a touch, what it was, so you can continue to build on that. And it's so key because donors want relationship. They want connection. They want to feel, again, special. They want to feel that they are a part of something bigger than themselves too. And one thing to note is it's much easier to keep a donor than to get a new one. So, this is why we research and we figure out who's already given. We want to start inside out. We want to start with the folks who are already part of the organization in some way or have already contributed, right? And we want to maintain that relationship because it usually pays off much more in dividends than starting new over and over again with new donors. So if you need to know, if you're trying to determine where to put your focus, make sure to start with the people who have already given and who have already shown and demonstrated that they care. Let me give you a quick example from my fundraising career. Early in my career, I was working with a local nonprofit, and we were raising money for a campaign to build new housing. And, this organization hadn't had a lot of consistent development. They had donors, but they didn't have a development team that was, making those touches and making those calls and just staying in touch with donors. And so we had some donors in our CRM, folks that had given in the past, and they had given small gifts. And they were kind of sporadic. They weren't regular, so they were lapsed donors. It had been a while since they had given. And the organization just struggled to, bring on mid-level donors, or really, frankly, any donors, because, of course, no development team, right? So you might be a development team of one right now watching this, and I want you to know that there's always lots of ideas on how to raise money, right? And a lot of people think like, oh, we got to do marketing and social media, and we got to reach as many people as we can reach. And I just want to encourage you to look into the treasure trove of the donors that you've already had and how you can develop them, graduate them into being larger donors. That could be mid-sized donors or major gift donors. And the way we define those gifts are just based on your organization, right? It can be that $5,000 is just a general gift for some folks. And for other organizations, that could be a mid-level gift, right? So how do you do that? All of the ways we talked about in terms of researching, making the ask, and following up. In my experience, what I was able to do was to start engaging those donors, asking them why they gave in the past. Asking why is really helpful. And in one example, we had somebody who had given small gifts sporadically in the past, but with our new initiative that we were doing, he was so excited to see us doing something, different, but just bigger than we'd done in the past. And bringing him in and talking to him one-on-one, giving him financial information and, impact information, and really personalizing my communications to him led eventually to a $250,000 pledge. That was a multi-year pledge. And so you just never know what you have in your treasure trove. You really want to kind of water the seeds that are there to see, what is going to blossom. And so make sure to pay attention to what you have and make sure to handle, your donors with care. That confidence does not come before action. Really, it's action that really fosters confidence. So you're gonna have to go before you're ready. You're really never gonna be 100% ready to make your first ask, but do it anyways. And the more that you do it, the easier it's going to get. Every call that you make, every note that you write, every donor meeting that you have, even if you can practice out loud with other people, that helps too. But I would say just go for it. Just start talking to people because you're just having conversations. The worst thing that someone can do is say no, right? And I always like to think my mindset as a fundraiser is that's just one more no closer to yes. Right? And if somebody cares to say no, then that means that they care enough to respond. So make sure to keep your mindset positive, and make sure that you are just doing more than you're learning. Like, learning is important, but practice, actually doing the work, actually getting out there and getting your hands dirty. That's where you really learn to be a fundraiser. All right, so I want you to give yourself to just be imperfect. Get out there. You are already an impact icon. Give yourself permission to continue to learn, to grow, and to just progress as you're practicing, right? And if you got something from today's video, please like and subscribe and share it with somebody else who might be in need and who might benefit from it. And if you want more skills and tools and expertise, please join us every Tuesday in our Impact Icon community. The link's below. You can join our community, and I'll see you Tuesday night, and I'll be there to answer your questions, help you through, and our community is here to support you while you're going through your fundraising journey. You are not alone. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.